What is a filter and what do they do, Paul?
Well, the fuel in the UK isn't the cleanest because any debris gets into the engine can be catastrophic.
We will then get damage also in the combustion chamber. The worst case scenario, even after treatment system could get damaged.
We want to protect people's machines. We want to protect people's high value assets.
Definitely. Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking to you about filters. Now, they are definitely not as boring as what you think, as you're going to find out in this video today. We've got the guys down from Fleetguard to talk to us about filters, who they are, and how they work together with us at Sparex. So let's get straight into it. So, Paul, run me through. Who are you? What do you do at Fleetguard? What's your history?
My name is Paul Lowe. I'm the technical service engineer for Fleetguard, and before I was the trainer for Cummins engines. Before that, I was a field service engineer and technician for Cummins also. I worked my way up as a trainer, rebuild, fault finding, training the technicians from dealers, from the Cummins the distributors, customers, everything.
Blimey, so you know everything about the engines. Well, let's see if we can put it to the test today then.
Right.
So, what is a filter and what do they do, Paul?
Filters are necessary to remove the contamination, protecting the engine, protecting equipment. I mean, we're talking about lubrication filters, maybe fuel filters, hydraulic filters, and air filters, as we see here. Because if we don't do that, the engine gets damaged, the internal components, of course, then get damaged. Total cost of ownership will increase, and that is what we don't want.
If that contamination does go into the engine, what effects are you going to see?
Now, if we look at, for example, air filters, let me show you an air filter. If we have an air filter here and the air filter is not serviced in time, or what we also see customers are doing is using compressed air.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that myself.
Yeah. So what then will happen, it will open the pores of the filter media. So contamination will then bypass that filter media. It will damage the turbo. It will damage the internals of the engine, like the pistons or the liners of the engine. If we have, for example, lubrication filters. So this is an example of a combination filter, full flow, a bypass filter. If we're not using or not filtering out the contamination, bearings in the engine will get damaged. The crankshaft will be damaged, camshaft, the camshaft rollers, etc. All the moving parts will get damaged. Fuel filters, especially now with the high pressure common rail systems, the pistons in the high pressure common rail pump, the injectors will not be spraying correctly anymore in the combustion chamber, so we will then get damage also in the combustion chamber. The worst case scenario, even after treatment system could get damaged.
Right, okay. So what we're saying is, especially when it comes to fuel, if you've not got something like that in, you're looking at a new engine if it's not.
Well, it's looking at high cost for repairing or replacing parts of the engine, so the high pressure pump, the common rail injector, and as mentioned, worst case scenario, even the after treatment can be damaged.
So yeah, need to change them then. Talk us through it, Andrew. How long have you been at Fleetguard, what you do, and...
So I'm relatively new to Fleetguard. I've been with Fleetguard for a year. I look after the day-to-day needs of Sparex in terms of the account management, products coming in, products going out, making sure that we've got the right parts that Sparex need. We have been part of Cummins for 66 years. So we've recently, in May 2023, we've had full separation from Cummins filtration. And we now are Atmos filtration.
Okay.
But like I said, we own the brand, we own the rights to Fleetguard. So we manufacture in 12 different countries. We do filters, coolants, air breathers.
Perfect. So just keeping that engine well looked after then, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned that there's a primary and a secondary air filter. What's the difference and how do they work?
Well, let me get this air filter. Oh, so good.
Oh, destroying your sec.
Sorry. The primary filter is actually the filter that removes contamination.
And what do you mean by the contamination? Do you mean like dust? Things?
Dirt, pollen, that type of thing.
Perfect.
When heavy-duty equipment is working in a very dirty environment, we not only use the primary filter, but we also have the secondary filter. During servicing, the primary filter and the secondary filter is mounted like this in the housing. When we need to service the filter, we remove the cover from the air filter. Then we see the primary filter in the housing. So we clean the surrounding in that housing. Then we remove the primary filter. We need to prevent that dirt is going to enter the inlet towards the turbo.
Okay.
So when you remove this primary filter, then dirt always falls down in the housing again because that filter is dirty. This is where you have the safety filter, preventing dirt coming into that inlet to the turbo when you're servicing the primary filter. It's not really a filter, it's just a safety guard.
Makes sense. So it's just making sure that during servicing you're not getting any dirt into that engine and that turbo.
Yeah.
And what have you got here?
I've got a cut open cyclone filter. Normally the contaminated air comes into the inlet of that air filter, then contaminating that primary air filter that we talked about. But in very dusty environments, what we also offer in our product range is our centrifugal air cleaner. Removes 85%, about 85% of the contamination before the air enters the air filter housing. It's a pre-cleaner. And the pre-cleaner is service-free. It's protecting also the primary filter because it's preventing that the primary air filter will contaminate very quickly in a very dusty environment. So the air, the dirty air comes in on this side, then there's a spinner inside, so that spinner, that is what we see here. Then the centrifugal forces will force that contamination out here at that side, and the cleaner air will then enter that air filter housing. So actually, for example, it's something like this.
Once it's fitted and on, that's it. You don't need to...
You don't have to lubricate it, you don't have to change it, you don't have to clean it.
Just with diesel engines changing and things, are you sort of constantly adapting those filters, trying to make them more efficient, more cost effective?
Absolutely, yeah. A big part of Fleetguard is our testing. We go through vigorous testing with our filters. I believe there's 16 points that we put our filters through in terms of real world conditions, so vibration testing and other sorts of testing to make sure that when your machinery is being used, we still give you the optimum performance that you'd expect from a quality filter.
I guess that's what you're paying for, is those tests and the good quality in the filter, long lasting. And
absolutely, yeah. We want to be seen as a tier 1 product, a tier 1 supplier, tier 1 manufacturer in the filtration market space. We want to protect people's machines. We want to protect people's high value assets.
Definitely. Why should you be changing your cab filter?
The operator is working in the cabin. Cabin air filter is protecting the operator from the contamination outside, like fungus, pollen, dust. We have, let's say, the standard air filter with the normal standard media. We have also got cabin air filters with active carbon. So active carbon is also even a better filter.
So I guess it's making it far safer for the farmer inside the cab.
We're not only thinking about equipment, we're also thinking about the business of the customer, protecting their employees.
That cabin air filter is a filter that a lot of people don't think of or forget about, because kind of the key ones are going to be your engine one, because you don't want your engine to blow up, but actually your cabin one can be just as important.
Absolutely true.
Between a fuel, oil or air, how do the service intervals differ and why do they differ?
So imagine an air filter. If we look at an air filter, the environment is constantly changing for an air filter, while a fuel filter or a lubrication filter is constantly in the same environment. The fuel is not changing, the quality is not changing, the oil quality is not changing.
If you're in a dirtier environment, what you're saying is the air filter is going to get dirtier quicker, whereas with the fuel and the oil, they're more at a set kind of service interval because they're in a consistent environment.
Yeah, so for example, if the equipment manufacturer is saying service interval every 500 hours for the lubrication and for the fuel filter, we cannot say that for a air filter because of that changing environment.
We offer ranges, from stage 0 filtration bulk tanks, stage 1, obviously when it starts to go onto the engine, stage 2. So we offer different products to support your machinery, depending on what application you need it on. Because fuel in the UK isn't the cleanest. If you can stop any contamination getting to the engine before it hits the filter,
of course,
be better, obviously.
No,
because any debris or any sort of that gets into the engine can be catastrophic for the engine.
when these compare to OEs, they're up to expectation and what a farmer would expect from a normal OE filter. Do you do any OE filters for brands and makes?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do partner with OEMs in the agricultural industry.
Yeah,
and provide filtration solutions for them.
So we've spoken about the quality of Fleetguard filters and how good they are. Now, what's stopping me from going out and finding a more affordable filter that may be lower quality?
Let me give you an example.
Okay.
A fuel filter is filtering out the contamination from the fuel,
Yeah.
okay, before it enters the engine high pressure common rail system. But with today's engines having also an after treatment system, during some conditions of the machine, it needed also to inject fuel in the after treatment system, and then it uses the same fuel that has gone through a filter, a fuel filter. If there is a special injector also injecting fuel towards the after treatment system, either that's the engine injector or an after treatment injector, also sometimes called a seventh injector, if that is damaged because contamination is not correctly filtered out from the fuel, then that injector that is injecting fuel towards that after treatment system is also damaged. So fuel is constantly spraying fuel in that after treatment system when it's not necessary. Then the after treatment system will heat up, maybe going to 900 degrees Celsius, and then the after treatment will get damaged. It will melt the internal parts of that after treatment system. So genuine filters is very important for the equipment, not only for the engine, but also for the after treatment system. And an after treatment system can be even more expensive than a small engine. The price of a filter compared with an after treatment system, better invest in Fleetguard filters.
You've spoken about contamination and things like that. How is that measured? And I've heard the word sort of micron being thrown around. And so what is a micron?
Micron is 1,000 of a millimeter. For example, hair thickness is about 60 micron. Let me give you a micron here.
Like that?
Yeah, so
you can't even see it, can
exactly.
you? Yeah.
So, and it's about 3 micron that can damage a fuel system. So it's that small. Now we're coming into that filter media. We want to filter out that contamination. So this is a good example here. Stratopore media. It's mentioned on the filter, so then the customer knows it's Stratopore media. Stratopore media is multi-layer media. So good example here is multi-layer media. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers. 6 layers with different micron ratings, and also more layers lose dirt holding capacity.
It means that it can hold more of those microns then within that media.
Not only that, it is, let's say the first layer is 10 micron, the second layer is 8 micron, the third layer is 5 micron, etc., etc., etc.
Okay.
So it's really filtering out layer by layer the different contamination sizes.
Is there different media for different filters?
We have the oil filter as an example. This is now a full flow filter, the Stratopore filter. This is the bypass filter. So
Sorry to interrupt there. What do you mean by full flow?
So all the oil from the oil pump from the engine will then flow through the full flow filter, and a portion of the oil from the engine will flow through the bypass filter. The bypass filter is a fine filter, and the full flow filter is, let's say, a 30 micron filter. So the full flow filter is multi-layer Stratopore filter. So the next version of Stratopore is our Nanonet filter. Now, what's the difference between the Stratopore filter and the Nanonet filter? Imagine your engine or your equipment is running. So engine running means vibration. What will happen with that contamination in the media?
Yeah.
It will drop down. What we want to prevent is that it go into the engine during that dynamic situation when the engine is running. So Nanonet holds that contamination during dynamic situations when the engine is running, and I think that's a big plus.
Definitely. And how does it hold all that contamination down, that Nanonet?
Because of the Nanonet fibers, we have that special process where the Nanonet fibers is also added to the media, and that Nanonet fiber is one long string, and that is added to that media. And that Nanonet fiber is holding that contamination in that filter during dynamic conditions.
You're sort of in a tractor going over lumps, bump, the whole tractor's vibrating.
Yeah, it's the engine running.
Yeah.
So we test our filters now also in dynamic conditions. The test lab has a test machine for Nanonet to test under dynamic conditions. So it's really vibrating during testing.
Is this something just to Fleetguard, this nanotech?
Yeah, that's proprietary to Fleetguard. So we have Nanonet for the lubrication and the fuel filters.
Yeah.
And we have NanoForce for the air filters. So Nanonet for lubrication fluid filters,
Yeah.
fuel filters, and NanoForce for air filters.
Making sure that is it's going to be cleaner going into the engine than what some standard filters might be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you work with Sparex then?
So Sparex are one of, if not the largest distributor in the UK in terms of agricultural parts for Atlas Fleetguard. So we've had a really good relationship. We've been partnering with Sparex for a number of years. We're always talking about new products coming onto the market. What can we add to the range?
It's sort of filling all those gaps with making sure we can cover, as we work together, all the makes and models that we can. And
We have a full range of agricultural parts available. So we rely on people like Sparex to sell our products in the agricultural space.
What you normally do during a rebuild, you need to lubricate, prime the engine. So you make sure that all the bearings the new bearings that you've mounted, the new crankshaft, the new components in the engines are already pre-lubricated before you go to start the engine. Every oil passage in the block is already filled with oil, but especially you see how big these filters are.
yeah, that's going to take a lot
So
to...
it's about 4 liters. 4 liters of oil. So if you start the engine without priming that engine, then the engine oil pump needs to start to fill up all these oil passages, all these filters. So that will take a long time.
Yeah.
So if you don't do that, what do you think will happen?
Well, it's not going to filter the fluid properly, is it?
One, yeah, and it takes a too long time to lubricate the bearings. So before you even can start the engine, the bearings will already be damaged if you don't prime the engine. So important tip, I think here,
Yeah.
is you need to pre-fill these filters before you mount them on the engine, because it will take a long time for the engine to fill these filters. And that is exactly what is mentioned or printed on that filter. And then you lubricate the O-ring. That is an important part, because if you don't lubricate the O-ring, once it tightens on the filter head, and after you need to remove that filter, you cannot remove it anymore. So it's very important to lubricate that O-ring.
Okay.
Then you spin it on the filter head,
Yeah.
until it touches the filter head, and then it's explaining that you need to turn it an additional turn of 3/4.
What happens if you don't tighten it enough or you over tighten
So
the filter?
one of the things I've seen is
Yeah.
that the filter wasn't tight enough. Yeah. So oil then is leaking.
Yes.
So engine damage will then of course happen. So again, high TCO cost because the engine will get damaged.
Because I guess you're losing all that oil, you're not going to have enough in the engine.
Exactly. So when you over tighten it, you will be stretching the thread of the filter, and then it will come loose also. So over tightening is also not done. So that's why you need to follow the guidelines on the filter.
Is that similar with a fuel filter as well?
No.
Or is it a different story?
Different story with
Okay.
fuel filters. So especially with high pressure common rail systems,
Yeah.
we talked about contamination, the microns. You're not allowed to pre-fill the filter, because imagine when you have a fuel filter and you just pour in that dirty fuel, what will happen with that dirt? It will go straight through the high pressure pump. It will go straight to the injectors, and you will have damaged components again. Fuel filters, the main engine fuel filter, the engine fuel filter, that is actually the last filter in line that is protecting the high pressure common rail system. You never pre-fill that filter. Normally there's a dust cap on the filter itself. You remove the dust cap, you mount that filter on the engine. High pressure common rail systems normally will have a electrical priming pump. So you turn on the key of that equipment, and then the priming pump will start running and will start pre-filling that filter.
When you fitted the fuel filter, then you've got to make sure that you give it time to fill that filter up.
Exactly. So, and if it's not filled, the engine will not start. So you turn off the key, turn the key on again in
Yeah.
on position. Don't start the engine, just key on again, and then it will start priming again for about 30 seconds or a minute. It depends on the equipment manufacturer, and then it will automatically prime the fuel filter. And also here, same as with the lubrication filter, follow the description how to tighten the fuel filter. So you spin it on the engine or on the filter head,
Yeah.
and then touches the filter head, and then follow the description on the filter.
Now, if you've got any questions, which I'm sure you won't after all of that, if you have, drop a comment down below and we'll get them answered for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.